Today we're going to be looking at Phantump and also at Pumpkaboo and their respective evolutions, of course. So let's begin with a rather mysterious little Pokemon called Phantump. Now, Phantump is a ghost and grass type Pokemon, and it is known as the Stump Pokemon. Phantump is said to form when the spirit of a child who got lost in the forest possesses an old, rotting tree stump. I know, it's pretty eerie, pretty scary. Now, Phantump's body is actually made of a hollow piece of wood with two branches that come out of it, and right here, two little arms. And inside, as you can see, there's some glowing red eyes. Now, just really quickly, the leaves that are here on its horns, I guess you can call it, are usually green, but their shade can vary depending on the forest that Phantump lives in. Now, Phantump makes eerie little cries that sound like a child's voice, and many people believe that this is the reason why people get lost in the forest. They follow Phantump's voice, thinking that maybe someone is calling for help, but it's actually just Phantump making its little cry and people confusing it. Despite how spooky that sounds, Phantump is actually quite a timid and friendly Pokemon. As I said, it often cries out with its little eerie kind of noise, but it does this to try to communicate with people who wander too far into the woods. It doesn't do this to harm them, but rather because Phantump is a Pokemon that gets lonely and it's just trying to make new friends, So not everything is as it seems. It is just a Pokemon that is trying to make friends, trying to communicate with people. So, even though, this sounds a little bit sad, Phantump's story sounds a little bit sad, I think that Phantump is a Pokemon that really represents connection and care, It is just a spirit that wants to find its place again. And it's trying to, meet people, make friends, and get along, even if maybe it looks a little bit spooky. Now, in order for Phantump to evolve, it needs to be traded. And when it gets traded, it evolves into Trevenant. Now, Trevenant is still a ghost and grass type Pokemon, but it is now known as the Elder Tree Pokemon. The Elder Tree Pokemon fits the description, in my opinion. Now, it is a very tall and ancient tree that has been brought back to life by a protective spirit. Its body looks like an old and twisted tree with a single glowing eye peering through the bark of the tree, I guess. Trevenant is said to be a sort of guardian of the forest, since it can control the trees and the roots around them, and it will use these trees to trap intruders who try to harm the forest. But here is the key word. It is intruders who try to harm the forest. Trevenant is not usually a malicious Pokemon. It only, attacks, I guess, or acts this way when the woods or its Pokemon friends are in danger. Just like Phantump, Trevenant is actually a nice and rather gentle Pokemon, and it likes to treat both people and Pokemon travelers have actually said, that when they were lost, the forest seemed to guide them safely home, which is maybe a sign of Trevenant protecting these travelers by moving the trees and the roads to make them a path for them to be able to leave the forest safely. However, Trevenant, as you can probably imagine, is also quite skilled in battle. Let's look at its battle skills, attacks, all that stuff, okay? Let's begin with Trevenant's most iconic move, which has to be its signature move, okay? This means that only Trevenant and Phantump can learn this move. This move is called Forest Curse. Forest Curse. Again, pretty fitting name. So, what does this move do? Now, Forest Curse, what it does is it adds the grass type type, I guess, to its target. So, for example, if it uses Forest Curse, for example, on a Pikachu who is electric type, that Pikachu, for a certain amount of time, will now be an electric and grass type Pokemon. And if it uses it, for example, against a Charizard, who, as you know, is fire flying, that Charizard will now become fire, flying, and grass type. I know. So technically you will have 3 moves for a little bit. And I'm sure you can guess what happened right here. Turns out that I am part grass type now. For today's lesson, I am part grass type. The effect should hopefully be wearing soon, but I was just doing some research for today's class, and I think I went a little bit too deep into the forest, At least now I smell like lemon. Anyways, other moves that Trevenant has. It has another move that only it and only Trevenant and Phantump can use, as well as the Grookey line. And it kind of makes sense that only they can learn it, because this move is called Branch Poke. Branch Poke, it's pretty self-explanatory. It hits the opponent with its branch. Makes sense, right? And also Trevenant learns a variety of your classic grass and ghost type moves, such as Horn Leech, Phantom Force, and Wood Hammer. And Trevenant learns Shadow Claw, all upon evolving as well. Lastly, we have to mention as well that it has 3 abilities, those being Natural Cure, Frisk, and Harvest. Your abilities professor will tell you more about those. Don't worry, just ask him if you are not sure. Now, to kind of finish off Trevenant here, I want to mention that I think that Trevenant is a Pokemon that I believe represents the balance between life and spirit. It is a Pokemon that bridges the supernatural and the, natural worlds, and there's still a lot of mysteries regarding it. But regardless how spooky it may look, it is a gentle Pokemon, showing that once again, appearances are not everything. You can look a bit more menacing, especially because the ghost type is usually associated with a bit spooky and menacing. But if you are not doing anything to it, it's not going to do anything back to you, And now that Trevenant and Phantump are done with, let's look at the other Pokemon that we're looking at today, which is Pumpkaboo. 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 Now, Pumpkaboo is a ghost and grass type Pokemon, and it is known as the Pumpkin Pokemon. Could you guess that? The Pumpkin Pokemon. Now, Pumpkaboo is a small and round Pokemon that obviously looks like a pumpkin, with glowing yellow eyes and a wavy black top half that sort of looks like some sort of shadowy mist, I'm not sure. Now, inside its body, there is said to be a gentle light that kind of flickers like a candle flame. Pumpkaboo is said to carry wandering spirits from the world of the living to the world of the dead. It also often appears around autumn and is commonly seen during certain things such as harvest festivals, where people small size, average size, large size, and super size. But very, very, very recently, in the Kalos region, they decided to change the names of these forms. So we have to use these newer names, I guess, now. So they are small variety, medium variety, large variety, and jumbo variety. And however, these are practically the same. The only real difference is that obviously small variety is smaller, medium is a bit bigger, large is a bit larger, and jumbo is pretty big. Now, as a Pokemon, they are practically the same. The only real difference is that the smaller Pumpkaboos are lighter and faster, but they have less health points, while the larger ones are heavier and have more health points, but they are going to be slower, a lot slower in fact. Now, what's fun about its size is that it is said that the size of a Pumpkaboo is relative to the number of lost souls that were present in the area where Pumpkaboo was formed. It is also said that Pumpkaboos prefer to take spirits who are of a similar size to it. So for example, smaller Pumpkaboo might prefer to take the spirits of smaller Pokemon, or children. Anyways, let's not get into the spooky stuff too much. Despite, all these differences, and despite all of these spooky legends related to Pumpkaboo, Pumpkaboo is also quite a cheerful and slightly mischievous Pokemon. Oh, I think Forest's curse is slowly wearing off. Perfect. Anyways, Pumpkaboo, as I said, they're quite cheerful, a little bit mischievous as ghost types tend to be, but they're known to be quite friendly and actually quite playful as well. I think that these spooky sort of legends about Pumpkaboo are because Pumpkaboos are able to hypnotize both human and Pokemon by releasing light from these holes in its pumpkin. It can release light to hypnotize and sort of control them, So, that's why I think these legends are a bit spooky, because it's like, oh, what if Pumpkaboo controls you, and then who knows what will happen, But as I mentioned, Pumpkaboos are really friendly Pokemon as well, and unless they are provoked, they're not going to do anything. So, just like Phantump, Pumpkaboo also evolves when it is traded, and it will evolve into, do you know its name? Do you know the name? 3, 2, 1. Gourgeist. Gourgeist. Now, just like Pumpkaboo, Gourgeist is also a grass and ghost Pokemon, and it is actually also known as the Pumpkin Pokemon. Oh, and also, you remember the whole thing about the different sizes that Pumpkaboo can be, right? It's the exact same thing with Gourgeist. And usually, well not usually, 100% of the times, a jumbo Pumpkaboo will evolve into a jumbo Gourgeist. A small Pumpkaboo will evolve into a small Gourgeist, and so on. Now Gourgeist has a hollow pumpkin-shaped body that glows from within, from the inside of it, I guess, and long, flowy arms that are they kind of look like its hair. I guess it acts as both. Its light that it has, usually from here, from its mouth, flickers quite softly as it moves, giving it a sort of calm but eerie presence. It is also said that Gourgeist sings in the night as it drifts through towns and forests, carrying the spirits of the departed. The songs are said to be beautiful, but also haunting, and anyone who listens a little bit too closely to the song is said to be drawn into a deep, deep sleep, and maybe even become cursed. Now once again, despite all of these ghostly and scary stories, Gourgeist is actually quite kind-hearted. It enjoys giving out candy and playing during festivals, a lot like Pumpkaboos do too. However, it can also become a very protective or even vengeful Pokemon to anyone who mistreats others, or even worse, anyone who mocks the dead. Never do that, especially not with a Gourgeist near you. Now, let's look at some moves, okay? Gourgeist and Pumpkaboo also have a signature move, just like Phantump and Trevenant do. Now this signature move is called Trick or Treat. Trick or Treat. Trick or Treat. And what this move does is that it makes it so that the target Pokemon becomes a ghost type. Remember how I said that Forest's Curse adds the grass type, like right here, unfortunately, to the target? Yes. Well, Trick or Treat does the same, but it adds the ghost type instead. As a little fun fact that I have to say is that in most other languages, Trick or Treat is actually called Halloween as a move. In multiple languages, the move is called Halloween and not Trick or Treat, but in English, we have it Trick or Treat. Just a fun fact that I thought could be interesting. Now quickly let's look at some other moves. Gourgeist learns a lot of strong ghost and grass type moves as well, such as Shadow Ball, Seed Bomb, Shadow Sneak, and last of all, its abilities are Pick Up, Frisk, and Insomnia. Again, your abilities professor will cover that. Now, I think that Gourgeist is a Pokemon that also represents the cycle of life and death. But it also represents, a celebration, as it is a reminder that even the spirits of the past can bring warmth and joy to those who remember them. And I believe that brings us to the end of our Halloween-themed lesson. Now, these Pokemon might look a little bit spooky, but they are generally quite gentle Pokemon, and they will cause no harm unless their loved ones are threatened. Anyways, thank you so much for coming to class, and remember, next time you see a flicker in the forest or a pumpkin glowing in the night, there may be a Pokemon spirit nearby, watching over you. Until next class, and happy Halloween. Bye bye.